So we're going to look at how to make a fire in this video, and I'm just voicing over whilst showing you in person on the video. So first things first, you can see there that I've picked up a lot of what's known as kindling, which is the small wood, everything that's kind of a lot smaller than your fingers, so the really thin stuff, smaller than your fingers. And next we need to, after collecting it, we need to start processing that. If you listen, you should be able to hear the crack of each of these things, and it's really important that we can find wood that is dry enough so that when we snap it, it cracks in that way. Whilst processing the wood, you need to think about breaking it down to about forearm length, or the length between your thumb and forefinger. As I break the wood down and start to place the kindling, that kindling bundle is what's going to take the first bits of flame as I add my tinder. So the tinder can be lit using a spark, and then afterwards the kindling will take the flame and grow that into a proper fire. To the side of me you can see that there's some larger wood that we're going to use to create what's known as the Nordic firebox, or the hashtag firebox method. Processing wood is really important because it means that you've got a really good sized tinder and kindling bundle. So the bigger the kindling bundle, the more likely it is that you won't need to do anything with your fire once you've set it. So it's really important to collect together a large amount of kindling ready for your fire. See here, I'm just checking the length of what I'm breaking down to make sure it's not too long. So the size of my forearm, or for your forearms, or a little bit smaller at this point. So whilst you're doing this, you can do it with or without gloves on. Normally the wood now will be in a good place, but you can see that I've started to create this bundle, and I'm putting some sticks sideways, so horizontal, and some sticks the other way around, so kind of facing upwards, so either side on or facing towards the camera. And that creates this kind of beginning of this hashtag. Then I'm going to start to get some slightly bigger pieces of wood and some cotton wool buds, and they're going to go right at the bottom underneath my tinder bundle. To do that, I'm lifting that kindling and tinder bundle with a stick, and then I'm putting underneath this cotton wool, and I've put a stick on both sides just to lift it up high enough to be able to be used, and I can slide things underneath. So there's my cotton wool, and I'm kind of flaking it open so it's less close together. And I've poked it all the way under using a stick. That's our kindling sorted, and that's our tinder sorted. The next thing is kind of the main fuel for the wood. So this is wood that's thicker than your thumb, or around kind of forearm bone thickness for you, or perhaps a little bit more. Again, I've used between my wrist and my elbow to measure the length of this, but it needs to be able to fit well enough into this fire pit so that it's the right distance. You can see that one was too long, so I've broken it down. And what I'm doing is I'm putting 2 sticks one way on the outside, and then 2 sticks the other way. Again, I'm trying to use fuel that is cracking when I break it, so I know that it's dry enough to be used. And as I build this hashtag, I'm going to go slightly further in on each side so that it creates almost a funnel effect. As you get higher and higher, you might want to use fatter pieces of wood, and if you choose to, you can also put logs on the outside of this afterwards. You can see now that this hashtag is being really built up, with the sides coming up higher and higher, and that's going to give you enough oxygen and fuel to make sure that the efficacy of the burn of the fire is quite high, and it funnels all the heat upwards. Once you've built this hashtag a little bit taller than the height of the fire pit, The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add kind of sticks that go downwards, so that as the fire builds, those flames go up and into the sticks above them. So instead of going hashtag, I'm going to put straight down into the middle with those next sticks. You can see them there, just being placed down from the top. And what will happen is the flames will start to lick up those sticks and burn them first, and that'll really help to light the sides. Just adjusting things so that hashtag's in a good place. And we're now going to make almost a wick, like a candle, running underneath. To help things burn, we're going to add some Vaseline to these cotton wool buds, and that will help it to burn a little bit better. Then poke it back under and create the wick by adding more pieces of cotton wool that will be spaced out so it will take a spark really easily off a flint and steel. And then we're going to let it just settle underneath, creating a line that goes from the side of the fire down underneath and into where we have our main kindling bundle. It's the last piece of tinder now, and because I'm about to start making the fire, I'm now putting gloves on so I can handle things that might be hot, and it reduces the likelihood of me being able to burn. We're going to use a flint and steel to light it, and we're going to use just that little bit of spaced cotton wool to help. As we move the camera closer, you'll see the full setup. So you can see I've set the fire with that little tinder bundle, which is the cotton wool, and I'm going to spark the flint and steel down towards it to create the flames. Lit straight away, now poking it right underneath with a stick. That stick can either come out or go in the top, or it can just stay where you left it. Now's the time to be patient. As long as there's enough space and there's enough kindling, the flames should start to build up in the fire without any real effort required from you. If you don't have enough kindling, then this is going to be a real problem. Just adding a few extra bits down the front, because that's where most of the fire is licking up at this point, and that'll help it to start to rise up into our bigger hashtag. Because I've got gloves on, I'm not really worried about burning myself, but I now just need to sit, wait, and be a little bit patient. See the flames starting to rise up and the smoke starting to come up out of the fire. Smoke's a good indication that either the wood is a little bit a little bit damp, or that there's not quite enough oxygen in that fire for it to burn effectively. You can see the flames are starting to lick up the fire, or the wood pile now. It's burning that kindling, and soon it will start to light the bigger pieces of wood so that the main fire is alight. If you want to help, you can blow into the fire, but make sure you look away when you breathe back in, and that'll help to add more oxygen to the fire and increase the kind of size of the flames. Fires that we're using in these fire pits shouldn't be any more than about chest height when you're sitting, or about hip height if you're standing. So if you're adding so much wood that it's getting much larger than that, that's too much wood, and you need to think about controlling that fire. So that's you making a fire. When you look to cook on your fires, you need to wait for the fire itself to die down towards embers. But the process is gather enough kindling, organise your fuel, and put together the hashtag with the kindling at the bottom, and then the hashtag building up around it. And you can see here, this creates a really easy set fire that should light very well, and burn very efficiently. There are other ways of doing this, but the Nordic firebox is one of the most efficient ways of setting a quick and good fire ready to be cooked on. So once you've let the fire die down, it should look a bit more like this. You can push all those larger logs together, and at this point we can think about getting our fire grate on, because it's a more gentle, stable heat. This is ready to start cooking on, and you can also look to introduce things like logs and other larger wood that will burn for longer.